Hello, everyone. Welcome back to F3. We're here again, Thomas. It's a good old time here. Good morning, FreightWaves Now, here live. Thomas, I think we have a special sponsor as well, huh?
We have special sponsors, special guests. It feels like yesterday, to be honest with you as well.
Yeah.
So let's give the shout out real quick to our sponsor, Cox Group. It's a WBE certified asset-based turnkey logistics solutions company located through North America with 22 million square feet of distribution space and over 1,000 power units. Visit www.warehouseservices.com for more details. Check it out.
Lots of assets there.
There's a lot of power units.
Yeah, a lot of space as well. And, I'm excited. First day, a lot of technology we're going to dive into today on this show, some marketing stuff, a little book preview for everyone too. But I do want to say today's actually International Entrepreneurship Day. So,
Hey,
yeah, perfect day.
did we time that?
Yeah, I think we did. I quite think so. And on that note, too, we're going to have a ton of people on this stage that fall into that category, and we'll go over some of the great freight tech here at this show throughout the next couple of days as well. But with us, we got a wonderful guest here. Talk about technology, right? This guy's been in a lot of interesting companies, and one in particular that we love that you're here with today, that's Optum. Chris Torrance, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, super excited. And now, Optum, first off, great name for what you guys do, but if people can't put that together, give us a little bit of snippet of what Optum's up to in the industry.
Yeah, Optum is a SaaS cloud-based optimization software company by name, Optum with a Y. We've been around for a little over 20 years and do a lot of various optimization, mathematical modeling within various modes of transportation. So started in rail and airlines, big presence in LTL, and then I was brought on about a year and a half ago to really roll that technology out into the full truckload space. So a lot of, I don't want to say the AI buzzwords too early, right? I'll take credit for getting that, but there's a component to that. I know Dooner would kick me off right now already, but
We're at the AI jar.
Yeah.
yes, yeah, that's right. I'll donate.
Yeah.
But there's a little touch of that. I won't go into too much detail.
Love it.
Well, let's talk about the trucking part because starting in other modes, moving to truckload, tell us what kind of went into that.
Yeah, a lot of this, in my opinion, as a former operator, and as Grace noted, I've been at some pretty cool companies, but I learned this industry from sitting at multiple vantage points. I've been a shipper, a carrier, a 3PL, now in tech, and there's a lot of things I used to do back in my operational days that I felt like, man, one day I hope there's like a calculator or something that would just remove a lot of the stuff that operations folks, planning, dispatching, that's just pretty mundane and repetitive. And it was always this idea of one day I would love to be able to focus on what I believe humans are good at, which is stuff like this, conferences, human-to-human centric activity versus some of the mundane tasks. So my plight in the industry and through Optum now is to go into the truckload space, and whether it's just, there's a ton of data, a lot of metrics and numbers. And again, we're never going to outperform a calculator. So again, what do I mean by that? I'm going to go into these organizations and make sure that they're understanding that your job's not getting replaced. This is, at this point in time, use the calculator, folks, and free up time to focus on what matters. So that's, again, planning, dispatching, trailer pool optimization, load consolidation. If it involves any kind of numerics, we are a great way to kind of alleviate, if not eliminate, some of that, again, that manual process and work.
Yeah, get rid of the abacus, bring out the TI-84, right? It's
82, we're
yeah,
working on that.
there we go.
It's vintage.
It's interesting because I feel like there's this rhetoric out there that, especially the trucking side of things, is not fully into the tech, right? Like whether it's apps or things of that nature. Is that true from your standpoint? Do you see any of that turning around?
It's a mixed bag, Grace. I mean, I think you have an industry that's been very conservative and traditionally, like just the nature of the industry. But as we look at other verticals and industries and segments, the tech adoption, it's mixed bag again. And so I think within trucking, you're seeing some folks that have, rightly so, been very skeptical. Yeah. And let's be honest, a lot of the promises big tech made 5-10 years ago haven't come to fruition today. So I empathize with that. Yeah. What I do think, though, if you're not thinking about things that will make you lower your operational expense and other costs that are really unnecessary, you're probably not you're gonna be at a disadvantage relative to companies that are starting to embrace it. So again, I think the younger generation's coming up, and many of them are at this conference, that's all they know.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in this interesting position where a lot of folks may be within a few years of retirement, and this, again, not generalizing, but the new management teams that are coming up, that's what they embrace. And so I think you're gonna see a shift in starting now, and in the coming years, it's only gonna accelerate of a new mind, a new school thinking, hey, we want to leverage all these tools available to us.
Yeah.
And I don't think that trend's going to change anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, in short, it is a mixed bag, and I think that's the onus is on the tech vendor and the leadership of the companies that we work with to make sure that that message of why are we starting to embrace technology? How will this impact you? Things that everyone really wants to know, but often don't have a seat at the table until it's already been pushed down to them to adopt.
Yeah.
And that's, we've seen time and time again, change management is often the hardest part. So don't discount that.
Our favorite topic here, right, Thomas?
Oh, my favorite, change
Right.
management. So let's dive into the change management part. Some estimates say 50-50. Other ones say 30% likelihood of success in change management. We've got the tech. It's available. We need to deploy it. What are some of the initiatives, low-hanging fruit? Where do we even start when you're having these conversations?
Yeah, I think it goes back to first start with like step back and go, what are the business objectives, right? And not try to like, there's no magic bullet for all this. I think there's a fallacy of a lot of people out in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley that often we were having this conversation last night, and it's very polarizing because you have the certain school of thought that automation is going to take over everything, but they don't really have domain practitioner experience, very theoretical.
Yes.
And then you have folks that, like us, or myself at least, that have been there, and so we're very realistic on what this industry's absorption rate is and where those use cases. So to Thomas, I think the first thing is find the business problem, then go in, make sure you sit with those end users of your software, in my case, understand their workflows, understand, in a mutual discussion, hey, if you could take some of this off your plate, could we all agree that that's probably a good idea? But that doesn't happen a lot. You get these contracts signed, and then these folks are there's an array of emotions when you see new technologies because there's a fear, right? And I understand that fear. But again, as I often say, technology's made us all redundant, whether we know it or not, since the beginning of time, right? We always find a way to repurpose what humans are good at. So I think, again, the onus falls within, it's a joint effort. It takes a village to roll out these technologies, but don't discount the folks on the operating floor that really need to buy into this.
Yeah.
And don't try to overstep your boundary and assume you know more than they do, because that just rubs people the wrong way, and your software becomes shelfware very quickly if you don't take that change management piece. Yeah.
No, let's say I'm a leader and I will stick to maybe trucking for now. I'm a fleet owner in particular, and I watch this. I go, oh my God, Optum, what's this about? I want to give that guy a call. Before I make that call, is there any tips that you would give leaders, kind of like the pre-discussion with your team before actually investing or taking this next step into automating processes? You mentioned clearly, like, figure out the problem, right, that you're trying to solve, but anything on top of that that would lead to a more positive outcome for once you step in the...
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. It's just, you need to have everyone involved that's going to be, especially the end users, and I think it's kind of like we treat those as commodities a lot.
Yeah.
Don't want to, again, generalize, but it's kind of like the driver shortage Craig was saying earlier. Like, as long as we look at drivers as commodities, then people don't take that, they take that kind of, it's offensive.
Yeah.
So I think even in our world, we've got to go in and respect the people that have been doing this job and pave the way. And trucking has always done things a certain way, and I think there's opportunities there, but it's going to take a lot more, again, an emphasis from tech vendors to go sit with those people. And like I said, when I go on site after we sell a contract, the first thing I do is take the team on site, and we're going to go out for dinner and drinks with that operations team.
Awesome.
Right? Because I want to get to know them as people first, and we get to know each other on a personal level, and then the next day, they're much more receptive to at least hearing what you have to say, and then you made the effort to go, I care about what you do, I care about you, how do I make you more productive in your day-to-day tasks? And it just starts to, from there, it starts to open up the embracing mentality versus the resistant mentality. So I think that's critical. And change management, again, people just, it gets lost in the mix.
Yeah.
And then people wonder after 6 months of like, no one's really using the software, or this tool sucks, or, there's just like a negative sentiment. And I think that, again, well, how much effort did you put in? Did you learn Excel in 30 minutes? Can you do a VLOOKUP? It takes time. So again, vendors need to make sure they invest that time and effort to get to know the people that are going to be using the product. And if you don't do it, it's going to be detrimental.
Yeah.
And looking at the options, like what gets deployed first, is there a commonality? Because I would think if I'm like Optum, I want to get them a sample, get them hooked, and I want to hook you up with more subsequent like a la carte options to make that holistic one. What are they asking for first, if that makes any sense? Do I need like a fuel router? Do I need a load planning assistance? What's the biggest thing that you commonly see first that kind of gets you in the door and that fleet owners and fleets should consider targeting?
Yeah, I think it goes back to identifying those things that unanimously we agree don't make sense to have a department of 40 people doing, right? And I think everyone starts to agree to that. So, I think that goes back to use cases. We see the human brain, right? How good are we at math? Really? We're not.
Yeah.
And the reality is that managing a truckload fleet, as I've said before, as an analogy, is like playing 1,000 games of chess all at the same time.
Yeah.
That is a very complex scenario
Not
to
like
try to
seeing
solve.
the pieces in front of you. You're
Yeah.
like,
So
okay.
again, what does a company like Optum do? Like, we just show you all what's mathematically possible, and through an engine or recommendation engine output. So if you're these planners that are trying to figure out, how do I keep this driver moving? How do I, and they're optimizing for a KPI. And I think there's this misconception that optimization means everything's perfect. What I try to say is optimal means, what do you deem it as optimal? Is that profitability? Is that revenue on the asset? Utilization? Keeping the drivers happy? Because you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
What are you willing to give and take? And I think that's where we do with our software, we kind of explain the why. So every time we make a recommendation, say a load selection or a driver assignment, we've already kind of mathematically shown you what is possible and given you the best output based on what you deem as optimal in the scenario. Now that may shift.
Yeah.
And then from there, it's up to that end user. We give them control to go, here's 5 things you should do, our recommendation. If you don't like the first one, that's fine. And they'll go to the second one, and then we'll tell them, the reason we chose this one is because of these metrics. And if you've got nuance or tribal knowledge that machines don't know, that's okay. But we're at least doing all that heavy lifting, the calculator. We're doing all that for you to make it. We work faster.
Yeah.
And I think people are like, we've done these exercises, and they'll say, all right, your software, we're going to gamify it. So we're going to have an end user like Thomas or Grace compete with our algorithm. And it's kind of like, again, it's gamified. And at the end, sometimes we've seen the result. They're like, hey, we've looked at it. It looks like our user and your software have basically the same outputs. So it's really not better. And I said, yeah, but it took our software 8 seconds, and your person's still 3.5 hours into trying to figure this out.
Yes.
Again, the human brain can't possibly ingest that.
Yeah.
And we have inherent bias. We have, again, mathematics is very objective, right?
Yeah.
So that's, again, it's just teeing up to show you what's possible in that regard, and then you make the decision based on, as an end user, what you know.
Yeah. I got about another minute here
Yeah.
with you, and just knowing your expertise and a big networker in this industry as well. FreightWaves, we're about hot freight opinions here. And it's 8:30 in the morning. We want some hot picks up from your end. If you had to, in the freight tech space in general, and it could be optimization, automation, whatever, what's a hot freight opinion you can leave our audience with this morning?
No one has the crystal ball. I know Craig's in there giving his take,
love
right?
crystal balls here, yes.
I'm hesitant because I think it's clearly proven to be, controversial things can be said. Again, without trying to be biased,
Yeah.
this entire AI augmentation automation movement, I think that's to me what I've gone this direction for a reason. And
Yeah.
all my previous companies, I think, were kind of pioneers in certain spaces.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the next one. That's my only skill set, Grace, is being able to kind of identify
Yeah.
what do I think the biggest trend is. So I think, again, to no surprise, you're going to see a continued investment across the board and continued just uptick across tools that enable folks to do more with less. And
Yeah.
that can be advantageous in a down market, but and I think this is something else, when the market inevitably does flip,
Yeah.
that use case is still there. Instead of looking for freight, now you're going, what freight should I be taking?
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, use these calculators to your advantage. And I think that's, again, try to be non-biased, but that's truly my opinion. As far as like big news, I think I'm gonna leave that to the folks that are in the know on your end.
Well, the AI guy says AI.
Imagine that,
Imagine that. I love that crystal ball. Chris, thank you so much for
Awesome,
joining
Grace,
us.
yes.
Optum's up to some great things. Go check them out as well, and we'll see you around here. Have a wonderful F3.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it already. So Thomas, Grace, thanks again for the time.
Of course. And
Awesome.
I'm excited because our next guest here, it's interesting, some of the topics that Chris just touched on, I think we might get into in this next discussion. We're going to take a little bit of a pivot, but not too much, especially from my point of view, to be honest with you, into marketing. Kara Brown.
Good
thank you so much.
morning.
Now author and happy. We got the
This
book
morning,
now.
officially.
Yes, Thomas. Mary's going to be excited too. She just started a book club for
Yep.
Check Call. Guys, get ready for that too. I mean, this smells good too. Smell of a good
New book smell.
Dude, love it. What's the inspiration behind this?
So this is what we do every day, all day, at my business called Lead Coverage. But we wanted to put it's 60,000 words, so it's not a small read, but it's material. We're really proud of it. We wanted to put it in a way that everyone can access. One of the things that we noticed coming out of the pandemic is there's kind of a lack of go-to-market talent in supply chain. not a shocker for anyone
Yes.
in the room. So we wanted to make it easy, right? And this is it. This is what we do every day, all day. We've got some incredible case studies with people that are in the room today, right? With our clients
Awesome.
that are here.
Yeah.
All about go-to-market only in supply chain. So it's really specific for everybody here.
Love it.
Talking about advice, because I mean, we both came from functional roles, and then we had to be put into a role where I get to talk on this mic. Yeah. So, what's some of the advice to folks within the industry in regards to how to get into marketing and any kind of like top 3?
Sure. So we've built a framework. It's a 9-step framework. Share good news, track interest, follow up. There are 3 funnels, not 1 funnel: the prospect funnel, nurture funnel, and the customer funnel. And then really most importantly is measurement. None of this matters if you're not speaking the language of the boardroom, which is finance. And so we talk about measuring volume, velocity, and value inside these funnels and delivering that math back to the leadership team. We start the book out talking about how I've always been the marketing girl, and I'm really proud that now we're delivering math, and there's real case studies in here that we're really excited to share that have actual math attached.
You know, I'm going to confess, before I took this job, I was not anti-marketing, but you had to convince me, you know? And you touched on that. I think a lot of people in this industry are kind of the same thing and starting to realize the importance of that story that you're telling in particular. And I think in the tech side of things too, it becomes even more difficult to share that story. Maybe advice around that, or why it's so difficult maybe for companies to figure out a way to make a story when it comes to the technology aspect.
It's so interesting. I mean, you guys do this every day, all day, right? So FreightWaves is an excellent partner for my company, Lead Coverage. You guys are a great partner for all of our clients that want to get engaged. I think my partner, Will Haraway, is actually the storyteller. So we have 2 big pieces of our business, right? The PR side, and then I get to do demand gen. Will's here today. He's the actual storyteller, so that's a great question for him.
Yeah.
I think we take that story that you're telling about your business, and Chris was just up here doing a phenomenal job telling Optum's story, right?
Yeah.
Really specifically what they do for customers, how they do it. I think one of the things that a lot of our very specifically broker customers get wrong is they try to be everything to everybody, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So when we come in and we say, hey, who's your ideal customer profile? And they say anyone that ships. Well, that's not exactly true. There are 19,677 shippers in the United States that matter.
Yeah.
So what is the list? What is the ideal customer profile list that you want to get in front of? Then we can talk about intent data, which I think is the sexiest thing coming for anyone in B2B and specifically in freight. But we can talk about that too.
Well, let's talk about that as well. So that's
Yeah,
an
for
intent
real.
data, like the intent, right?
So I'm going to tell you a little story,
Yes.
which everyone is welcome to steal. It's also in the book, right? So when Steve Jobs gets on stage in November 2026, which I believe he will, and he tells the marketplace he is insourcing his supply chain, which I believe he will, and the mic drops for billions and billions of dollars in freight, he did not wake up that morning and make that decision, right? So he doesn't stand up, right? He doesn't blow up his supply chain partners. That decision was made by a Tiger team in Cupertino right now. And that Tiger team is downloading Gartner reports. They're Googling what they need to be doing. How do I buy a fleet? TMS, WMS, OMS. Those are intent signals. And now with the democratization of technology tools in marketing and sales, we can see those intent signals.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's like a tell. You're tipping your cards because they're
Yes.
suddenly interested in another.
That's right. And so you're looking for these
So
breadcrumbs.
interesting.
So maybe they're not Googling, you know, I don't know, like truckload in the Midwest. Like that's not happening. No one's Googling Midwest truckload. We all know
Yeah.
that, right? But maybe they're opening a new location in Kansas. And they're Googling where is the best place to put this location, or they're connecting with a 3PL, like they're looking for 3PLs in the Midwest. What are the changes that are happening in their supply chain that you can then reach out and say, hey, it looks like something's changing in your supply chain. Do you have other problems
God, I
I can
love
help
that.
you solve? It's
Yeah.
really sexy. The math we have to prove it is really cool.
Clip it. That's a clip. Right
That's a
there.
clip. No, that's.
I love that.
And speaking of clips, one thing I think that I have to do a better job of. So reaching out in marketing, you've got intent signals where customers are tipping their hand. If I'm a company like a broker and I want to kind of tip my hand to attract a certain customer, what are some signals I can send out, I guess, when I'm searching instead when I'm looking to collect from someone?
So here's one of the pieces of advice that we give every single potential customer or customer that comes to lead coverage. Plant a flag. Choose something. Pick something that you are going to be the best at. Our best example is ITS Logistics. This is in the book. It's published, so I can share it. It's also published
I believe they're
every
speaking
single
today,
month.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Josh
yep.
is here. Yeah.
With Craig, yeah.
Every single month, ITS puts out the very fun and exciting Port Rail Ramp Index, which I kind of joke. It's
So
not-
fun.
Yeah, it's so fun and exciting. But what's really sexy is it gets picked up by CNBC and Railway Age.
Yeah.
Well, where are these drayage customers? They're reading Railway Age.
Yeah.
And people are paying attention to who's being picked up by Lorianne LaRocco at CNBC.
Yeah.
And so when ITS picks this flag, they plant this flag on drayage, which, by the way, ITS is almost a $2 billion full end-to-end supply chain company
Yeah.
with warehouses and managed trans. This is not the only thing they do, but they planted this flag. They get customers to come in through the drayage angle, and then they cross-sell them into freight.
That's
And so
really
you have to plant the flag. There's no planting the flag on, we're the best over-the-road broker, right? Like CH owns that. Like,
Yeah.
no one's gonna, take that away from the 800-pound gorilla. So pick something else, whether it's steel or weird moves, or I met a guy this week who only does tankers full of like weird chemicals. Like, own it. Own
Yeah.
the thing that you're. So I think the answer to your question is plant the flag.
I love that. Here's a fun question, marketing in particular. Right now, Wicked's about to come out, and I don't know if anyone's noticed, but everyone is doing a Wicked partnership in some way, shape, or form. If you had to do a Wicked partnership through freight, whether it's tech, whether it's brokerage, be creative. How would you
God.
see that go down?
That is a good question. You're also talking to a very serious,
Yes, Wicked stan.
like I'm a very
Yes.
serious Broadway fan.
Love it.
I don't know. I think we should just do a whole Broadway on freight. Like, let's just, right?
Yes.
Do an entire Broadway production
Yes.
on starting a freight brokerage.
I did meet a trucker who made a play about his lifestyle and what happened to him when he was in trucking and kind of like the at-home experience.
I
and
love
what that
it.
was like.
Call it on the road.
Oh my goodness. Who would be our Elphaba?
Oh my gosh. Craig Fuller.
Yes. I love that. Oh my God, we're running with this. We have to go with
We
this.
need to get him to sing a ballad today.
Yes, exactly.
I was gonna pick broomsticks.
Yes.
We make the
You
best.
could be our Glinda. I love that.
I love it.
But I liked what you're talking about, planting a flag, not being afraid to pick something, using that as a funnel. Moving ahead in terms of social media presence, you had a great point with ITS talking about putting out reports. A lot of folks are afraid to, like we're doing now, talk. Should they go into video, TikToks, YouTube when they're partnering up and figuring it out, or is it just start with some text and try something?
The latter, right? Start with something, try something. So
Yeah.
part of what we do for our clients, we call executive thought leadership, and we literally write it for our executives. So if you don't have time, it's totally fine. I'll give you a couple pieces of advice if someone hasn't tried it yet. One, digital is always fixable. So perfection is the enemy of progress. This
Yeah.
is for our executives. We love you guys, I really do. But sometimes it's like this T, this I don't sound like this.
Yeah, we've all been there.
The Twitter edit button is useful,
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. It's okay if you mess it up. Also, LinkedIn will only show about 1% of your followers any of your content, unless you're Kara Brown and you're blowing up LinkedIn. Someone told me yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah.
Someone called me yesterday and was like, "Would you stop?" Like, and I'm like, "The book comes out tomorrow."
You've won the
promise."
LinkedIn
Yeah, I know,
algorithm.
right? I promise I'll be done
Yeah.
tomorrow when the book is launched. But I think making sure that you're sending your LinkedIn content from a human, because LinkedIn rewards human interactions, not corporate interactions. Very important, number one. And two, just get it out there. No one's gonna see it anyway. Also, kind of no one's gonna read it. It's okay, just get it out there, start to plant the flag on something. But I think text is a great way to start. Video, even for me, is really intimidating. When I've published
As she's
the book-
killing it on the stage, but
well, I
yes.
appreciate that. When I published the book, one of my book people was like, "You need more video." So I had to have a human follow me around the Transportation Marketing and Sales Association conference. It was so uncomfortable. So I get it. Video can be super hard, but just start writing, right? Just start banging it out. It's great.
Thomas and I are like, I wish a camera was following me all day long. Yeah. I wish I had that problem.
You guys basically have a camera following you all day long.
Yeah, South, if you could just follow me for the rest of the day, that would be great.
We will. He's around here somewhere. Shout out to South Sturrock. So looking ahead, you've got the book. You're doing the PR tour. What's next?
This is it. I want to get this into as many hands as possible. The book is really for 22-year-old Kara Brown. I grew up on the floor of Echo Global Logistics. I worked right for Doug Wagner. It was an amazing experience. But I had no idea what I was doing. The first chapter is just me like kind of floundering around, figuring it out. And they liked me. I had a lot of energy. And they were willing, I was kind of willing to do anything for anyone, but I didn't have any KPIs. And so my goal is to get this into as many people's hands as possible to give more marketers a seat at the table, a meaningful seat at the table.
Yeah.
And if you can do like 25% of what we recommend in here, and if you can start to measure what you're doing in a meaningful and strategic way, you will have a seat at the table because you're gonna be bringing a point of view that isn't, no offense to my sales leaders, isn't just the sales perspective. It's gonna be an actual market point of view, which is important.
Yeah, it's so kind of frustrating sometimes in the work that we do too, because there is that line of like people wanting to stay like on a sales pitch, and you see it more with like the publicly traded companies, I would say. But that's what like for me, I'm sure Thomas agrees. Like I love trying to capture that story and pull that out of them. So if I ever do that in an interview with someone, I go off rails. That's because I'm trying to do you a favor, even if I fail and fall on my face. We got about a minute here. If you could write another book, what do you think you would focus it on after this fun venture that you've been through?
So this isn't going to surprise anyone who knows me, but less than 2% of all female founders will break $1 million in revenue. The number of women that break $10 million is statistically irrelevant. They don't track it. It's just the list.
Oh, wow.
The number of published authors that are women is also less than 2% in the business community, and I'm an Iron Man, which is less than 2%. So there's a book in me about being a very average girl from the Midwest. You and I have talked about this.
Yep.
And yet doing kind of hard things.
Yeah.
I think that's probably next.
Where can we get the book?
You can get it right there.
Yes.
Check it out.
We're signing books today, and it's on Amazon. We've got Kindle, and I recorded my own audiobook, so you can listen to me sound like a Chicago frog for 6 hours.
Love that. Thank you so much. Again, women in tech, women in marketing. Love to see the work. Again, a beautiful book, beautiful color scheme too. So
Thanks, guys.
thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate
Thanks for having me.
Sure. Hey everyone, this day just started. So we got a full day of fun stuff coming up ahead. Thomas, you and I will be doing radio later tonight, but get ready for, of course, wonderful main stage presentations. We got more people coming this way too.
Yeah, check it out. Check call is going to be coming up, as well as What the Truck. Stay tuned. A lot more great content coming right up.